Hey everyone, welcome back to the Champions podcast with myself, Heather McCoy,
Camp Squires.
and today we have a special guest, somebody that I love dearly. She has a very powerful story. She has cystic fibrosis and has had three double lung transplants.
Say
And
that number again, Heather.
three, okay,
Three.
triple. And we're going to let her share her story, and we hope it touches you. So this is my good friend Amanda, and we're so excited to have you on here today.
Well, thank y'all. Thank you for having me. I'm super excited. I haven't done like a podcast here in a while. But yeah, Heather kind of gave a little quick synopsis. So got diagnosed with CF at like right over a year and lived a pretty normal childhood. Ended up in like third grade, so I was about 8. I got a super rare fungus that just over time, really affected my lungs. Was super active, danced all through like for 15 years, all of that. Went to college, joined a sorority, lived very as normally as possible with, of course, like, doing hours worth of vest and breathing treatments. But, my parents really they really shouldered a lot of that so that I could live as much of a normal life as possible. Yeah, so what kind of started this whole transplant journey for me was my pulmonologist, who I credit dearly for getting me to where I am now. Her name was Dr. Vanskoy. She was out of Virginia. She kind of knew based on the trajectory of my lung function, that when my lungs went, they would go. And so when I graduated high school, we started reaching out to different hospitals because my fungus was so rare. A lot of them automatically said no, wouldn't even take a look at my chart, nothing. But Duke was the first one that was like, we'll like have her come, we'll evaluate her, and then they accepted me, but I wasn't in my window yet. Then a few weeks later, went off to college. Like I kind of briefly mentioned, joined a sorority, did all of the fun, college things. And then between my sophomore and junior year, my mom talks about how literally we packed up my dorm room one Friday, and the next Friday I was airlifted to Duke on life support on the vent, all of that. And it kind of went from there. It was a super emergency situation. I didn't do the normal transplant route of doing like pulmonary rehab and all of that. But because Duke saw me just a few months before is why they decided to transplant me. So got my transplant, had some, I wouldn't say complications, but bumps. If you're lucky enough to have a very smooth recovery, that's great. Mine has never been smooth. All three have always had different varying complications. But then I went back to college. Duke gave me the okay to go back, so I went back. And then about 8 months, I had rejection, got cleared, and then it came back like a month later. And then I went into full blown rejection again. And this was about 2015, 2016. And then I got my second double lung transplant in January of 2017. That one went very well. Even though I was super duper sick. I'm a pretty petite woman. I'm only like 4'11", and I was about maybe 60 something, like 60 to 70-ish pounds at that time. Super just skin and bones. And just my mom talks about the prayers that she prayed over me at that time, that if it was in God's will for me not to have another transplant, that she prayed that I would not suffer. um and then obviously I got another transplant at that point. So I did really well in that transplant. I was out of the hospital. I think I was from transplant to out was about 11 days, I believe, maybe. Yes, it was about 11 days. And then, kind of recovered really well. I did not go back to school at that point. I wanted to take some time to really kind of heal and take some time to do, I started working. I worked at a hair salon. And then my dad served 30 years in the Air Force, and we were currently stationed in Virginia at the time, and he retired. And I'm Florida born and raised. My parents are Florida born and raised. And my dad got this job interview from this place in Florida. And my mom and I kind of looked at each other and were like, okay, well, we're going back to Florida. So we made the move. At that time, right before we moved, I got into rejection again. They thought they could kind of stop it and get it to kind of, get out of rejection, but it was just couldn't. My body would just not come out of rejection at that point. Moved down here, was up and down to Duke multiple times. And at this point, we were getting very, very worried because I'd already had seconds. Thirds were super rare at the time. At that point, there were only two at Duke. And you just didn't know if you were going to get a third. It was not like, it was lucky if you get a first one, lucky if you get a second one, super lucky if you get a third one. And at that point, my doctor told me, my pulmonologist at Duke, she was like, you just need to start rehabbing at home. Walk, eat, do everything you can. So I was shoveling food down and it was tough. I mean, Heather can speak to that. When you're that sick, you don't want to eat, much less do anything. And I was really pushing myself. And then it was actually my dad's birthday, and I found out that Duke accepted me to start rehab for a third. So, and this was in February of 2018. And at that
Wow.
point, it kind of,
Wow.
yeah, I had two transplants within 2 years, and then I'm coming on my fourth year for a third. And at that point, we relocated back to Durham for a third, and then that one came in May of 2019. So it's been over 6 years now. And this is obviously the longest I've gone without having a transplant. So it's super weird to I haven't been at Duke in about 2 years. I get seen locally, and my pulmonologist here and my amazing doctor pulmonologist at Duke, they are old colleagues and they talk all the time. So I get to be seen at home, and
Wow. Wow.
so. But one of the really big rare complications I had with my third is it's like literally the doctors told us a one in a million happening. I had a spinal hematoma that crushed my spine. So I was paralyzed from about here to like my sternum down. And the doctors told my parents that it would be a miracle if I could walk within 6 months, maybe much less a year. And I remember that whole night the surgeon told me, just stare at my toes, tell them to move, just keep doing it. So that whole night after the surgery, where they relieved the pressure, I just stared at my feet the whole night. And about like 4 a.m., my big toe on my left foot just like moved just a little bit. And I remember I was trached at the time. So I'm like banging on the side of the bed, like trying to get my mom's attention. And I was able to move my legs and kind of sit up within 24 hours and walk within 48. So that's
Wait a
kind
minute.
of,
Whoa. I gotta stop you there. What? This is legit right now. This is keep going.
yeah. So there's certain things I think you live with certain pain throughout the day, but I mean, that's the price of being here. And I'm just so thankful. And, my faith and my family got me through a lot, and I know I would not be here without it. We were, praying around the clock and praying for the most, crazy things of, you know, praying for kidneys to work, praying for livers to work, and all of that. So at this point, now I'm, 6 years post. I work full time, and I'm getting married in October.
Yay.
So, yes, so I'm grateful that I get to do what I'm doing. There are days when you're like, oh my gosh, work is work. But I think of I get to instead of I have to,
Hmm.
is a great mindset. So, and I'm here because of, my faith, and, my mom and my dad are both, very faithful. And so that's really carried me through so much.
Well, it
So
speaks
yeah.
who Amanda is. When I was in the hospital for my second. I had never met her in person yet, and she came to my hospital room and brought me a little gift and just talked to me. I think I was actually trached or something at the time.
Hmm.
And from day one, I loved her so much because it just spoke to who she was to come in there and to see me in a vulnerable place and just to encourage me, hey, it's going to get better. It's one day at a time, you've got this. And I don't even know that I've ever told her that, honestly, but it still means so much to me that you showed up. And I had to laugh when you said about banging on the bed when you had the trach. I did the exact same thing. You're trying to figure out,
Yeah.
I'm supposed to speak. Well, I'm just going to bang and throw stuff.
Yeah, I had like my pain, like the little like pain pump thing. I would use that as like my hands if I couldn't clap or something. Because like you're super weak and like you don't have like you take like those things for granted of being able to like move your fingers or clap. Like I remember feeling like I was clapping through like a pillow. Like I could not get myself to do it. So you come up with very creative ways of communicating. And I know I remember when I went to go visit Heather, I remember talking to her mom and I was like, I can come. I can like I don't want to pressure her. I know everybody's for me, I love to have visitors and like I didn't care if people talked. Like that I liked having people talk around me. Like I remember my best friend and my mom and my dad would just sit there and talk to me, even though I couldn't reply. But we were just like there was just conversations. And I remember I think my mom came with me to visit Heather and we were just all just sitting there chit-chatting. And I think even though you think I can't speak, I should I should like it's just a different mind shift. And I remember during my first transplant realizing how quiet it was in the room and my mom being like, no, she wants us to talk. Like she wants us to, communicate and not like whisper. Like, so I think it's like important. Those things are kind of important. And also, like, I know like everybody is different with how they process those things. And so that's why, like with, Heather, I knew you were having the vocal cord issue at the time. And I was like, I don't want her to feel pressure that she needs to talk, but like, we're here. Like, we're here. We'll come visit. We'll sit. We'll just hang out. I was like, but if she doesn't want that, that's, I understand that too. Um, so yeah, and like this community specifically is so unique and important. Um, People are like, how do you do it? I'm like, you have a very unique set of friends. Um, so it's like a little high school class, like you graduate with. So yeah.
Amanda, I want to. Heather, can I steal it from here for a minute? So I want to ask a very interesting question, and if it's too personal, you can tell me to back off. That's fine.
I'm
Um,
an open book. I probably
well, no,
overshare.
no. I
So
so I like I hear you talk about your family, and then I hear you say you're getting ready to get married in October.
hmm.
How has that been? Because I think that sometimes people hear stories about,
Hmm.
and I'm gonna say us, people that live with physical limitations or chronic health conditions, and they think, I don't think they think we're different, but I think they think, okay, how does the other side of that, the
Yeah.
family, the connection, the relationship, the companionship, the partner in general, kind of coming along and stepping up to the plate because they're taking on a
Hmm.
whole new
Yeah.
different perspective. What has that been like for you? And I know your fiance is not with us, but what has that been like for you, or how would you describe that if you get what I'm saying there?
Yeah. I will say, so I really had to my whole life my parents have been like, you have this, but this does not have you. And I think because they raised me with that, I was able to be like, this doesn't make me less. This doesn't make me, yes, it makes me different, but not different badly.
Mm-hmm.
And I think because of that, I came into any relationship I was in, whether that's family, friendship, romantic, with that in mind, be like, yes, I have this. This is my life might look different, but it doesn't stop me from also wanting the same things that everybody else does. And when I met my now fiance, we actually met on a dating app, and I remember on our first date, I told him, I was like, this is I laid it all out there for him. I have this, and this, things may look different for me than it does for, another. I think I was 28 at the time, 28-year-old woman. And he said something. He was like, I was already super impressed with you, but now that he was like, honestly, knowing that now makes me look at you so much. He's like, differently in a good way. He was like,
Hmm.
differently because this adds to who you are. And when he said it adds to who you are, I was like, this is different because most, like a lot of people think it takes away from you. Whereas he was like, this is just adds to the beautiful person that I'm getting to know.
Hmm.
And, I had a moment when him and I were dating, and I was like super emotional. I was like, I don't want you to have to maybe one day be without me or our children be without their mom. And he was like, I would rather do this with you than with any, he was like, I don't want to do this to anybody else. And so, I he's probably one of the first people other than like my family that I've been super open about everything about. Like, with my spinal injury came with, bladder and bowel issues, and he takes that on with stride. And he's an absolute, gem of a person. And I feel really lucky. And, for anybody who's out there kind of wondering like when that's gonna happen, it does. It was like so cliche. I was like, I had to stop looking. I went to like that phase of my life, like being like, okay, I'm not going to put pressure on myself. I'm not going to put pressure on the people I'm seeing. If it's meant to be, it'll be. And we've literally from our first date, we hung out like a day later, and we've been really together ever since. So it's
Yeah,
Yeah.
been, yeah.
Go ahead, Heather, because I know you've got a wonderful way to connect those dots.
yeah,
Yeah, and specifically, I think about in my wedding party is my best friend from college, one of my childhood, she's like a sister, and then my cousin, and then one of my other bridesmaids would have been my friend Tiff. Um, but each of those people are different parts of my life, and that was like super important for me to have like those pillars of my life. So, obviously I have my childhood friend. I met her, our moms work together. Her mom's like another mom to me. My mom is her godmom. And she was one of those people. She has taken on like the CF Foundation as like that is what she's passionate about. She's passionate about Donate Life. She's passionate about all that. And it's like really shaped of her path in life as well. Like she just applied for like a transplant coordinator job. So, super proud of her. And then my best friend, it was like I kind of told her what I had. We met our first week of college, kind of told her what was going on, and she has never once treated me differently, never once like I think when people hear like you have some kind of physical or
Hmm. Hmm.
ailment, they automatically think they have to baby you. No, she is not one of those people. She tells it like it is, and I appreciate that. Everybody in my life is like that. And so she's no different. And then, obviously my cousin, she's in my wedding too. That was like my baby doll growing up. She's my baby. But then, my friend Tiff, she had CF and a transplant, and she was one of the most giving, kind people I've ever met.
Hmm.
And that's been a really big loss, I'm sure, in Heather's life as well. She passed, probably about a month ago. Hard to believe it's been a month. She had cancer. She had bile duct cancer. She fought it so hard. And to say, like, she won. In my mind, she absolutely won. But
Heather, I think you've got something you want to add to that, just in the connection of the dots.
I wanted to say that first, y'all are like the cutest couple, and
thank you.
Amanda knows with CF, like when you tell the guy, you're going to find out what they're made of within a week or two if they can handle
Hmm.
it. And I have not had the privilege of meeting her fiance in person yet, but just how she's talked about him and how he's stuck by her already, I'm like totally impressed. And I could not be happier. And you've been through so much, and we've had so much loss in our community to know what just being able to see you now and living the heck out of the cards you've been dealt and
Hmm.
every bit of life. I know as just as a friend, like it just brings me so much joy to see you in this phase. And
Yeah.
always have the medical part of it, but just seeing you finally be able to say, I can do something, quote, normal.
Yeah.
And I know some people may not understand, oh, well, that's just life, getting married and having a job, or it's to us is like huge. It really is.
Yeah, like I remember the other day I was like I had some big projects at work due and I was stressed. I was like, oh my gosh, it's so like I don't And my mom was like, this is like, Amanda, this is normal. And of course at first I'm like, I know it is. I know it's normal to be stressed at work. Mom's like, no, like this is normal. And I'm like, oh, you're right. It is. And so like I think Heather can probably, speak to when you are in it so much that when
Mm,
you're out of it, you kind of wait for the other shoe to drop. And that's when you've really got to lean into yourself and your faith
mm,
that if the other shoe does drop, it's nothing that you can't handle because you have faith, you have Christ, you have your friends, you have your family. Um, so I think, you kind of live in survival mode a lot. And then when you get out of it, you're like, wait, I don't know how to function as a normal person.
Because
So,
I was freaking out about something, just, overthinking, stressing. And you sent me a text back and said, like, it's going to be okay. Don't worry about something that hasn't happened yet. And I have stuck by what you said. And
mhm.
start spiraling out with overthinking and thinking about what if, what if, what if. And I keep saying, Amanda said it hasn't happened yet. Don't stress about this. And I love your attitude about everything. I mean, to say 3 transplants, I mean, what a story. And to be able to see you living shows people the power in organ donation.
Yeah,
And we both, I think, have come from being able to be accepted, as an early age with CF, and our mothers having the same mentality of you were born special from God, but you're going to
mm.
live and don't let anybody tell you differently. And so I think it has contributed to how you just continue to get up each day, no matter what you're facing. And I'm going to let Champ ask any remaining questions.
yeah,
I've been over.
So I'm like sitting there here smiling the whole dang time because not only do I have the front row seat, but it's just like it's so I hear Amanda and I hear a lot of my own self in the way that you talk about the relationship aspect of life. And I think that that's something that I've really, I don't want to say wrestled with, but that's something that I've really talked about a lot recently because I know what it's like on both ends of the spectrum. I know what it's like
mhm.
to be in the season of loneliness, but also in the season of where we are now, of like enjoying that other person and enjoying their company and enjoying what the Lord's doing in that. And so finding that person. What do you think it means to you to be a champion for Christ in the midst of the storm, whatever that storm looks like for you?
I think being a champion of Christ means having an anchor. Even in the roughest of storms, like people ask, like, I remember someone specifically was talking to somebody, they're like, how are you not angry at God? I'm like, because one, he's not going to give me something that I can't do. And he's not going to take me this far to leave me now. Um, and two, if anything, I turned toward Christ more when I was really struggling. And it gave me so much hope and so much peace. Like I can just remember, so my mama, she is the rock of our family. She is our anchor. She is our faith. That woman is a godly woman. And I remember I would just feel, I remember looking at my mom at one time and being like, I need mama here. And they drove her up. Like from Florida all the way up to Durham. And she would just pray. And I remember just feeling like literally whatever it was, the heaviness just kind of start to melt. And having that anchor, like she was the anchor when I couldn't anchor myself, or God was the anchor when I couldn't anchor myself. So that's kind of what that is. And speaking about the seasons of loneliness, like I think everybody has that. And I think if they say they don't, I'm happy for them. But I know right before I really started kind of being like, okay, maybe I will like really start to date, being like, maybe it's just not in the cards for me. But I'm like, no, I want it to be in the cards for me. So I'm going to try. And until I know differently, I'm going to keep moving.
And
So go ahead, Heather.
you also know that because of your story, miracles happen. So
Yes.
you can't count yourself out and you can't count God out. Go ahead, Champ.
Yeah, I'm listening. Go ahead. Oh, um, so what do you think next for you, Amanda?
Ooh, so next, we obviously
After wedding and
after wedding, we are starting the fertility surrogacy process.
okay.
Super important for Robert and I. His name's Robert. For us to have a family, and seeing if that's something that looks like, is super important to us. And really it's, my mom and I joke like she'll always be a caregiver. Robert's stepping in as another one. So also transitioning that some is super, very different to have a partner rather than like a parent be a caregiver. Um, so yeah, we're kind of looking into that, and starting a family is really important to us, and we want to start sooner rather than later. Um, so yeah, and enjoying this time together. Like we had our engagement party this past weekend, and it was when we looked at each other and be like, this is crazy. Like we're getting married. And, really starting to plan that is super exciting. And we are so just lucky and blessed. And we're so excited to share this with all of our loved ones. And, I hope I think it's easy to look at, people in certain situations and want that and let that be you. But I hope if she can do it, I can do it. So I'm hoping it's a show of if she can have it, so can I. So I'm hoping that that's what, our relationship on the outside really looks like.
So I'm gonna joke about this real quick, but I have to because I don't know if Amanda could tell. I was walking as we were doing the last part of it, and it was just funny hearing you say that and talk about Robert in that way. Uh, I'm kind of in that same season right now, and it's just really, it almost gets me choked up even now thinking about it, just to see and to have that person that sees all the crazy,
Mm-hmm.
beginning to see all the crazy, but to see the person as a person.
Yeah.
And I think if there's anything that I keep hearing from you, you said anchor is being the word,
Mm-hmm.
um, but just the making sure that you're anchored in Christ and who you are,
Yep.
and then stepping in, not even in the sense of a relationship, but stepping into just friend relationships with the idea that you are together in this and you're full in who you are and complete in who you are. And so all those things.
Yes. Yeah, I think I feel super blessed with, my parents. It's just I'm an only child, but I have a very big family regardless. My whole family has always been, we're always a unit and we're always there for each other. And I feel super blessed in that. I think because I had that, I was able to really be confident in who I am and what I have to know, like my family loves me, someone else will too. And but like I said, the anchor part is that's I really anchored myself in my faith and let that be my foundation. And it was super important for Robert and I for Christ to be the number one
Oh,
in our relationship as well.
Yeah, and I can honestly,
yeah.
Robert is an answered prayer that so many of us have had for you in your life, and
Mhm.
I've really enjoyed being able to. I mean, I know your story, but obviously you sharing it, it's just really powerful. And if you don't mind, would you share like your social media in case people like want to follow you?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know where I think how long. Well, a lot of my social media name's about to change in like 3.5 months. But I can't even remember my Instagram name. What is it? Oh, it's my Instagram is it's A Varnes. So I mean it's like A with V as in Victor, ARNES 95. That will be changing soon. Don't know to what yet. But something with Collier, which will be my new last name. And then my name on Facebook is Amanda Diane Varnes. So yeah, I love connecting with people. It's one of my favorite things. And um, like I think Duke is a very like it's a very unique hospital. Like a lot of the doctors will connect you with other patients, which is super, like a lot of doctors are like, oh, I don't want to do that. Duke is like, oh no, there's a girl here that's your age, you need to go talk to her. So I think that's how all of us kind of meet. And it's super, some of my, really good best friends have come out of Duke. So yeah.
I'm so blessed that our paths, if we had to go through what we have gone through, we got to meet at Duke and are going to be
Yeah.
friends. And I'm just so excited for you and just that you're in this phase. And I pray that it continues to be this way and that these lungs last you forever and ever.
Yes.
That
Yeah,
anything,
I after this I'm gonna go to the gym, so I'm definitely trying to keep these lungs fit and happy. So
well, it was a pleasure and
Amanda, last thing I'm gonna say, I'm okay with saying this. Let that wedding day take that breath away.
yes. Yes, that's the one time I will let it. I will let it.
well, we
The one time.
Yes.
were so happy to have you on today. And
I
like I
feel so thankful. Thank you for having me.
said, and we hope everybody else enjoyed this episode. And Amanda is the definition of a champion.
Thank
It
you.
really is.
All right. God bless you guys.